begin. So, what makes Australian universities stand apart from the universities rest of the world?
If you look at Australia, it is first of all, the safest country.
Okay.
So it gives a lot of assurance to the parents about the safety.
Pretty much all the universities fall into top 500 of the world, whether it's any ranking that you talk about. Diversity is one of the biggest aspects.
Almost all universities have a variation of what we at UNSW call the Founders Program, right? Every university has a slightly different name for it, but as a cohort of universities, from Australia, there is a lot of focus on ensuring that each student can find their right path.
Hi everyone, welcome to AECC's Thoughtcast, where we bring you the latest insights in higher international education and introduce you to some of the best universities around the world. For today's panel discussion, we have some very distinguished guests with us today, each with over 20 plus years of experience in higher ed, and they're possibly some of the best minds to give you a refreshing take on Australian higher education. So make sure that you stay with us. This is going to be very interesting. Before we begin, let me introduce our guest for today. Our first guest is Mr. Amit Malhotra. He is the Regional Director for South Asia and Africa at La Trobe University. Hi Amit, welcome to AECC. Our next guest is Ms. Ashni Malhotra. She is the Regional Director for South Asia and the Middle East at Griffith University. Hi Ashni, welcome to AECC Thoughtcast. Our last esteemed guest for today is Mr. Mayank Jhingan. He is the Regional Sales Director for University of New South Wales. Welcome Mayank.
Thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you. Let's begin. All right. So Amit, my first question is to you. Today, any student who's thinking of exploring the possibility of going outside for higher education is going to have Australia in the top 3 list, right? So what makes Australian universities stand apart from the universities rest of the world?
Sure. It's important to sort of understand the benefits before you select any destination, any university. So, considering that you mentioned about Australia and the benefits, Australia has been very popular. Like for me, it's been 25 years. I've been associated with this industry, and I see like there's a huge demand for Australian education, and for the right reasons. Because if you look at Australia, it is first of all, the safest country.
Okay.
So it gives a lot of assurance to the parents about the safety. Number 2, the quality of education is really, of high standards. And I can say that from the rankings, the world rankings, if you pick up any substantial rankings, whether you pick up the QS rankings or you talk about the Times Higher Education rankings, Shanghai rankings, you would see all the Australian universities reflecting in the top 500 universities of the world, which talks about the consistency of the quality across the Australian education system.
Absolutely.
It talks about also that the universities have got a real strong focus on education imparting, but also they've got a very strong focus on research, which is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
A strong outcomes when it comes down to employability also. Right. So Australian education really focuses on making sure that they're imparting the qualification to the student, but they're also imparting them a lot broader experience. And when I say that, I also want to talk about the nationality mix. So Australia has been attracting students from over 100 different countries.
There's a lot of diversity.
It brings in a lot of diversity, great learning. You're sort of you're engaging with a lot of, different people, different nationalities. You're learning so much from each other. So a classroom with different nationalities brings you a different perspectives also that you could learn and make you a global sort of, citizen. You never know what future holds. You might be going back to your home country for work. You might be staying back in Australia. You might be going to another third country maybe for work. And this broadens your thinking. You really understand the global aspects. So that's Australia's a great place to be. I spoke about safety before, and I want to also highlight, which I didn't do that, is that if you actually look at the safe countries or the best countries or best cities rather for
It's in the top 10.
Actually, your cities
reflect
in the top 20. So that itself also talks about the safety on that one. But also, I also want to sort of comment on that the Australian universities have got the best student support services. We are known for that. So we really understand, when the student is coming, they're coming away from home, they need a lot of support. They need, you're still sort of a bit homesick sometime. You want to get into the new country, you want to understand the education system, you want to be successful. So what we do it is, we make sure that there's a support that has been given to the student from the day one, where they're coming down to when they're studying, they need academic support. We generally say that the international office for them is like the parents. And we want to make sure that they feel like home away from home. So anywhere they need support with academic, they want the peer support. We've got the mentor programs running at the university. So it's a great, I would say the ecosystem of structure under which you're studying.
Yeah.
And all the universities, all the system is actually well sort of structured under the act called the ESOS Act.
Okay.
Where the government is closely monitoring, they're looking into how each institution is running the courses. They look into the courses, they look at the university infrastructure, they look at the support
There's a
system.
constant reassessment always
Absolutely. We in fact have to go through some audits each year to make sure that we're maintaining high standards. So that gives an assurance to quality. And I've already spoken about the employability, with the strong focus on employability. That's what students want now.
Right.
So I think the combination of all this, it's a great, sort of a proposition for a student to consider Australia as the study destination.
And added to that, there's great weather.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Ashni, my next question is to you. So Australia has been many times, it's called the land of opportunity, right? So what, do you think there's any contribution of the Australian education system and Australian universities in shaping up that repetition that Australia has a lot of opportunities for international students?
Yeah, I would agree that actually Australian higher education system has contributed immensely in making Australia as a strong proposition when you talk about opportunities. So Australia holds a very strong position in that. How it happened is about 20-30 years ago, that's when Australia started promoting itself. And through series of activities, events, I think we've come this long in terms of Australia as a destination that students choose to be at. In terms of what Amit really mentioned about ranking, global ranking that universities hold. So when we talk about opportunities, of course, how it comes is universities with higher ranking. So pretty much all the universities fall into top 500 of the world, whether it's any ranking that you talk about. Diversity is one of the biggest aspects that Australia enjoys. It's a melting pot of the culture is what I would say. And you see and experience different cultures while you walk on the roads, whether it's Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Gold Coast. So everywhere you see people from different parts of the world. So whether it means brings work, whether work's bringing them there, or it's tourism that's bringing them there, it's a lot of opportunities that people get in Australia. In terms of from students' perspective, Australia has always been attractive because of post-study work visa rights, that it allows students to work and gain some meaningful experience after they complete their relevant degrees in Australia, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, whether they do undergrad, postgrad or research degrees. So that gives them that exposure in the country, which they can then take it back to their home countries or anywhere else they get jobs.
Right.
So that experience they take with them. And it being multicultural always helps.
Yeah, absolutely. It enriches a student's life in so many ways. You're exposed to so many diverse cultures, and I think it upskills your life skills as well, along with the academic ones.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mayank, I've got an interesting question for you. So we've seen that the kind of courses that students are choosing now vis-a-vis, let's say pre-COVID or 8 or 10 years back, they are changing, their approach is changing, their inclination towards the courses are changing. So can you elaborate or highlight some of the top and the most increasingly popular courses in Australia today?
See, there is definitely a shift, and this is not necessarily country specific, but there's a shift in the kind of professions and the kind of skills that students are looking forward to now. These are becoming more and more niche as students are becoming more and more clear earlier in their age, on what is it that they want to pursue for the rest of their lives. So given that that's the plan, of course things can change, but that's the plan at the onset of it. Now there are certain kind of programs that have always been popular.
Mm-hmm.
So programs in the business faculties, so any management related programs, and there's various disciplines across this business faculty. Similarly, technology, so you can look at engineering,
Right.
and a lot of its branches. Then, how technology advances, all those changes that are happening across the world. So there's a lot of focus now on cybersecurity. There's a lot of focus now on AI enablement, and top universities of the world, such as all of the Australian universities, they're all using these AI enablement techniques to teach students, to enable assessment of the work that they submit, their test taking. And so artificial intelligence, as the entire world evolves towards it, so are these Australian universities evolving towards this and exposing our students with it. Whenever you talk about a new technology, there are aspects of it that are, that has got to do with ethics. So if you talk about hacking, then there's ethical hacking. So you should be able to do it, but for the right reasons.
For the right reasons.
So when you learn these things from a university, at a university, then you also get the ethics around that technology. So, so when you ask me about courses that are becoming popular, there's a lot of focus on AI related courses. There's a lot of focus on finance related courses. There's a lot of, focus on or interest towards data related courses like data decisions and, things like that. So yes, there is a shift, but that does not mean that some of the other,
The traditional ones are still there.
they're losing any spark for themselves.
Right.
So yeah, to sum that up, that's where it's headed now.
Okay.
Can I also just add that when students are thinking of their higher education, sometimes the biggest question in their mind is about that: do we need to do something which is like new, the buzzwords, or stick to the traditional? The interesting part is that the traditional, like what Mayank, and I totally agree with what Mayank mentioned, the traditional courses and the demand for the jobs related to it are still there. An accountant is still required. It's not that the accountant would not be required anymore.
Right.
It's
But
just
it's
that-
evolved a lot.
Exactly. It's about the new skills that they need to know.
Correct. Correct.
So it's important for them to understand that where is the technology moving, how things are moving. So if people are concerned about that, would accountants be not required in the future? Or would let's say engineers be not required in the future? The answer is no. And that's where I think what we are doing as all Australian universities are we embedding a lot of these technologies into the degree.
Correct.
And the programs are constantly reviewed in collaboration with the industry. So to assure students that if you want to really go down for those traditional courses, you're actually learning the upgraded technology embedded into it. You're not just doing what was taught about 20 years back.
So you've got the job skills vis-a-vis whatever traditional courses are. You've still, changed it with the new market and with the new job skills.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So Amit, moving on to La Trobe University, it has one of the highest graduate employability rates, right? So what kind of support system and career services does La Trobe University offer for students to land up those great jobs and internships?
Sure. Now, I did mention when you asked me about Australia about the student support system, and I think it's very important for us to focus on the outcomes of the degree. So we want to make sure from the very beginning, because when the student comes down to university, we are just not imparting an education, a degree, a qualification, but we give them a lot of skills along with it. So what we've done at La Trobe is that we actually started with a service called the Career Ready Advantage.
Okay.
So the moment student comes in, the first thing what we do is that we enroll them into this service. And we try to enhance their soft skills along with their learning the technical skills.
That is so important.
Very important.
Yeah.
And particularly to this generation, they need to understand the value of communication. You have to come out, you have to speak out more. So communication skills, networking skills, very important to network with people. It's very important also that you understand that it's important that you're putting across the message correctly. So we're trying to make sure that they're learning the communication, the engagement skills, the networking skills also. But what we also do it is we constantly put a lot of effort by engaging them into with the industry.
So there are industry partnerships.
A lot of industry partnerships. In fact, all the Australian universities, if I could talk about all universities, La Trobe, we all really focus on industry engagement. So while they're studying or they're doing the degree, we make sure that they are given the opportunity of working with industry, which could be through different models. It could be the work integrated learning, it could be internship, it could be short-term engagement. You could constantly or regularly go down to the industry for industry visits. So we do that. We bring in industry to the campus also. So what we do it is that a part of the qualification is actually delivered by the industry experts.
Okay.
So they come down.
So the practical exposure is very high.
Very high. In fact, there are a lot of industries who have invested on just in university campuses. For example, if I talk about La Trobe, and I give you one example like Cisco.
Okay.
So Cisco has got a huge investment at La Trobe. We've got Cisco Labs.
Wonderful.
And they're recruiting students also. The students are using the Cisco techniques, the technology, they're doing the certifications, and also on the top of it, they're getting placed also. And that's one of the many examples I'm talking about. We've got Microsoft on the campus and many more.
So imagine the kind of opportunities there are.
So you're getting the understanding and learning of the technology, you're engaging with the industry, there are guest lectures. We're running seminars. We invite the industry experts to run these symposiums, to run, to come and do some teaching in the classroom, to give them some updates on what is the skills that they expect from the future employees. So the students start understanding where the demand is going. What are the subjects they should pick up? So a constant effort is being put down there. And then we also organize a lot of showcases where the student has the opportunity of showcasing their skills.
Oh.
Like something as an example, we do an IT engineering showcase, we do business showcase. The students are able to present themselves to the industry. So
And that builds up their confidence as well.
Exactly, they build the networks, and networks are very important. So when you get ready for it, you primarily you have people in the industry, you can approach them, and more importantly, like I said, that picking up the soft skills to really understand everything of how to communicate and convey your message. What we've also done it is that we really strongly focus on the course accreditations.
Oh yes, that's
So
an
we
important
want-
aspect.
Very, very important aspect. So we make sure that all the necessary accreditations are there in every program. Whether we talk about the AACSP accreditations, or we talk about Engineering Australia, Australian Competitive Society, the CPA, which is for accountant. So we make sure that our qualifications have got a strong recognition, and that's how we are achieving those employment outcomes also. And the new, the sort of direction for all the universities where we're all sort of focusing on is we're also trying to support a lot of startups. So
Okay.
when students are studying, they've got ideas, and we really want to give them a support and ecosystem where we can help them and motivate or boost them to convert their ideas into real, the business.
That's a
So-
great opportunity, yeah.
So presents are there, they've got an idea, advanced idea, they can use them. There are incubators they can use, we're building incubators. So a lot of that ecosystem infrastructure, the investments have gone in to make sure that we are just not an education provider, but we are a long-term partner. We can support you. We can convert your ideas into the real business also.
And with you, the thing that you just mentioned about startups, I think there's a wave of entrepreneurship happening in the youngsters today, and they can ride that wave with the kind of skill that they.
Almost all universities have a variation of what we at UNSW call the founders program, right? Amit touched upon it, and every university has a slightly different name for it, but as a cohort of universities from Australia, like Amit mentioned, there is a lot of focus on ensuring that each student can find their right path. There are students who are cut out and want to work in a job and take it from there. There are students who know from the beginning that they want to start something of their own.
Of their own.
They can call their own, right? So, I'll share a small statistic. So, from the launch of the Founders Program at UNSW, since 2018, almost 80% of the startups that took off, so in the last 6 years, have been successful.
Oh, that's quite a number.
So, when I say successful, I'm talking about sustainable business models, right? I'm not saying that they become unicorns. But they become sustainable business models, and those students, now successful alumni of UNSW, they are having a great time. And every time we meet students at alumni, so now ex-students, but at alumni events, that's what they talk about a lot. And I think the other point that Amit touched on is the importance of learning the art of communication, right? And this is not Australia specific or India specific or China specific, right? It is required because more and more employers from across the globe are looking at the ability of being able to put your point across.
Correct.
Right? And this kind of a career service is available at any good university in Australia, right? And students should go in with a mindset of using these services. The earlier you start, the better prepared you are for it by the time you finish your program.
Ashni, in the similar vein, in terms of education system that students, so the education systems in the countries, they differ quite a bit, right? So for example, in India, the emphasis that's put on theory or practical element is going to be very different than what happens in Australia. So when these students land up at the campus, there is going to be a lot of adjustment they'll have to make in terms of how to study, how to do their assignments. So this transition is usually very difficult the first 6 months. How does Griffith University help students in that transition?
It's interesting when you say that. It's a big transition for students, very big, because what they are used to here is very different in Australia. And when we talk to students, this is one of the key aspects that we let them know. We try and tell them that, look, it's going to be very different. You'll be far more independent than what you've been here. Here, academics may tell you that you've got to arrive at 8 o'clock in the morning, you'll be in the university till 2 o'clock, which is very different in Australia. So how universities do that, and not just Griffith, I think every university have their orientation programs. And that's the beginning of it. And there's a lot of focus. So we've evolved, we've come a long way from students missing orientation to now orientation being compulsory. And the reason is there's a big transition of academic teaching and learning for a student, international student per se. And every country, not just India, every country, they have their different teaching and learning styles, and they have to all adapt to Australia's. So orientation is compulsory aspect now before commencement of the program, and that's where academic workshops happen. How to research, how to Google research. So those are the things that students need to know, how to present themselves, how to ask questions, what to ask, what not to ask, any question you, and there's a lot of focus on talking, presenting yourself, talking and asking questions, and being independent is the key. There's no set lecture plan that will be given to you, now you come and attend the classes. It's up to you.
It's up to you.
We assume that you are an adult and you'll know how to make decisions.
You are an adult.
Yeah, exactly. And there's an assumption that goes that you will know how to make right kind of decisions. So there's no compulsion on coming and attending the classes.
But you've got to use the opportunities provided to you.
So that's a big shift for students. So initially they enjoy, well, I'll be very honest, they enjoy that freedom, but as soon as the first trimester assessment hits, that's when the reality strikes.
Yeah.
That's why we made orientation very important, and then we start training students, and not just in-person orientation, we do virtual orientation as well, engagement with the student before they even arrive on campus, that this is what is expected out of you. So you're setting their expectation right.
Okay.
You know, interestingly, about the whole thing about enjoying the freedom. So, you know, a lot of the students would go in expecting a similar kind of timetable, right? So, you know, like Ashni said, arrive at university at 8 in the morning, you'll be there till 2, and it doesn't work like that. You might have just like 4 lectures in a week.
Entire day.
In the week.
Wow. Okay. So I know now what you mean about freedom.
Because the emphasis is a lot more on concept-based learning, right? So the role of the academic is to show you the concept, then you got to go and study it. You got to go and work on it. So which is why all of the other time that is considered free, right? That needs to be invested towards understanding those concepts and taking your questions to the next lecture.
Right.
So you know, amazingly, I think this is a phenomenon that is common across universities, that as soon as the first trimester assessment hits you, that's when you realize that, you know, you have been enjoying your freedom a little bit too much.
Okay. But answer me this, Mayank, if there are some students who need a little bit of more hand holding, is there some provision for them as well?
Yes, there are a lot of support systems universities do have, peer-to-peer study, mentorship, student mentors are there. So for a new student, when they arrive, there are students who are already a mentor. So they would mentor, mentee, we assign them, and buddy system is there for undergrads, especially because of course they are one young, two in a new education environment. So we assign buddies to the students so that their transition is smooth, and some may face more than others. Right. Let's put it that way. They may need a little bit extra hand holding. So universities do have those kind of support services available, and not just in terms of learning, but in terms of English enhancement strategies as well. Universities have that in place also, because students, for them, English may not be their first language. So you need that support system. They could be speaking well, they could be writing well, but academic writing can be different
Okay.
than what you would normally write. So all those workshops are being held during the orientation, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, because that's the only time that students are exposed first, and during the tenure as well. So there's a continuous support system. So students are identified if they're not attending classes or if they have not submitted their assignments. So it's not easy. So one of the things that I normally tell students, it's not easy to fail.
Because we're going to support you so much.
It's really hard to fail in an Australian education system, because academics are so forthcoming. They know who's submitting an assignment. They put a track. They send you mailers that I've not seen you, you've not submitted assignment, can you come and see me? So all of that support system is there.
Right. That's absolutely awesome. The kind of support that would give a student, an international student, is really going to help them thrive. Mayank?
Can I also say that with the academics, like, you could always approach them. They're always approachable. So you can go down to ask them for support. Right. But plagiarism is a big crime. You just can't, go to another friend of yours and say, you've done your stuff,
Yeah, give it to
and give it to me, I'll copy that and then submit it together. That's a big crime. And there have been instances where the students have been caught and they've been failed. You can't, it's a crime, like I said, it's a crime. So it's very important for a student to do their assignments themselves. Right. They need to put efforts from the very beginning. And like what Ashni said, they be chased. Yeah. They just can't escape.
So it's important to be authentic and original here.
And hardworking and committed, which eventually pays off, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got those 4 adjectives for Australian students. Right. So Mayank, UNSW is known for its dual degree programs, right? What are the main highlights for dual degree programs, and why should a student maybe opt for them compared to a single degree one?
At the start of this conversation, you spoke about changing trends,
right,
towards a variety of courses, and some of the answers that we came up with were a lot of the traditional courses and programs still haven't lost their appeal, but there is a little bit of a risk or a surprise element on the buzzword courses, and things like that. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is that assume I want to start my own thing after I graduate, right? So I want to specialize in a couple of fields, or I am truly interested in learning more about these 2 streams or of study. So that is a big draw. So what I'm trying to say is that these courses or these dual degrees are created in response to the demand of the market, right? Keeping the Australian system true to its nature, and then the second part of it is a lot of students will build on an extra year.
Okay.
Right now there can be a variety of reasons for this. Sometimes you pick an honors year. Right, and sometimes you've decided already that okay, I've understood this aspect of it in my first 2 years, and I want to pick these subjects so that it becomes a dual degree towards the end of it. And there is an argument that when you approach a variety of job opportunities at the end of the course, then there is more on offer for you, right? So I think I might have missed a couple of points here if you guys would want to add, but I think this is mostly the logic of why universities came up with these offerings and why students wanted these offerings in the first place.
And Ashni, there's such a huge rapid growth that's happening in the healthcare sector, and Griffith is known for its healthcare programs, right? Anything you would like to highlight there?
Yeah, healthcare actually experienced a spike after COVID, if I have to say that. We, as a university, we experienced a spike in students applying for health degrees. And for some very good reasons and passionate reasons, we spoke to a lot of students, and they said because we saw so many things during COVID, we really wanted to come forward and help those in need. So that were the reasons for doing health degrees. Now skills and all required. So nursing, of course, has been big for Australia. Medicine and healthcare, health administration, public health, these key programs or are always in demand for Australian universities. But in terms of pharmacy, that has picked up really well. That actually became very flagship. Um, and from Indian students' perspective, pharmacy is not just about understanding drugs. Um, it's about a full circle. It's about diagnostics. It's about
There's a whole range that's covered there.
so, if I have to give you an example, a pharmacist is not just about promoting a drug. It's about you could work in a sales organization. How do you promote? How do you market new medicine? Right? And there's whole drug design and discovery aspect to it. So you can work in research as well. You can be an academician as well. So you can teach in that area. So there's a whole range of health, I would say, outcomes, health degree outcomes. And it's not just working with people, but in different aspects of it as well. So, so these are the few degrees that actually came. They were always with Griffith, but yeah, students started asking for more because they thought there's a value in it. They could get more employment, not just India, Australia, or anywhere else as well. So there were more demand of people into health areas. So yeah, and then of course interpersonal skill, and then there's a lot of interprofessional teaching also happens within the health.
Healthcare programs, right.
I think there's a lot going on since the COVID has happened. In fact, that's one aspect of it, but there are also there's increasing global issues around the cancer, diabetes. So there's a lot of research at the moment going on in those spaces as well at different universities. If I talk about La Trobe, for example, just recently we established a new institute within La Trobe called the ACAMI. Now, what does ACAMI stands for? The Australian Centre of Artificial Intelligence for Medical Innovation.
Okay.
What we're doing we're trying to sort of find out using the AI, the past data, the past treatments which have happened, that what will be the appropriate treatment for someone who's suffering from a particular medical issue.
Oh, that's future edge.
Exactly. That's something like a future. So instead of sort of finding every case as unique and trying to find out what it is, we're trying to use the AI to find out what has been done with the similar cases in the past. We're using data, we look at the treatment, customizing treatment depending on the problems of the patients. So that's where these technologies are taking in terms, and the health is now becoming very, very big. In fact, something that also emerged quite strongly after the COVID is digital health, becoming very, very popular. Another field that the students, the health students are actually demanding for now.
Yeah, it's the importance of digital health that came into highlight after COVID actually.
I'm so glad we touched on AI because my next question was that. So AI is impacting the way we just see the job market. It's having such a huge impact. So what kind of impact do you see happening on the Australian job market? That's one. And second is, what would be the top 3 skills that any student should have, keeping in mind how much changes AI is constantly bringing to the job market? What are the top 3 skills they should be having?
Sure. So that's my belief is that technology can never replace human. Technology is a facilitator. Right. It facilitates the work that you do by making it more accurate, and more organized, and you can do more work. That's what it helps you with. I still remember we were very young when the computers were brought into the government sector, and there was a lot of hue and cry across the country about that a lot of people lose their jobs. Till date, it hasn't happened. In fact, I was reading one of the article very recently from the NSTC about the skills shortage in India, and they said that at the moment there are over 100 million jobs for which we need the skilled people. There's such huge skill shortage. So technology is a facilitator. It will not replace human. The key is for someone who wants to be successful, they need to keep learning. And in fact, there was another quote in that article that I was reading. It says that by 2025, all the professionals will have to constantly continue learning these new technologies about AI, the machine learning, about cyber, the big data. So you need to constantly learn this. But what is important for the new people who will come into the workforce, if they could learn that in the degree, it makes their degree more applicable to what's happening in the industry today, in the real life. And that's where it sort of, the AI plays a role, because now every organization, it's somewhere using the AI into the work.
Absolutely.
The phones, for example, you look at the phones, our phones have got AI. Forget about the work. We keep using the AI all the time. In fact, the chat GPTs, the success of chat GPTs and many other,
And
So
the facial recognition, security and all, this is all AI. So it is all about enhancement in your work. It helps you enhance to a next level, and the security gets finer and finite with that. But it's never going to replace.
If I had to sum all of this up, and I 100% agree with what my colleagues here have mentioned. So the key is to be more adaptable, right? So when Amit says you need to be learning throughout your life, another reason why Australian universities are now also focusing on lifelong learning, right? Be it short courses, bite-sized courses, micro degrees, micro credentials, a variety of names for it. But if you want to compete with a machine and you don't want to become obsolete, because your peers will become adaptable. So in essence, you are still competing with the same set of humans you were competing 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 2 years ago. So you need to stay adaptable. You need to be willing to learn. And then the other thing that we mentioned at some point during this conversation is stay relevant by be more communicable about what your skill sets are, what is it, what are your goals, what direction you want to go in, what is your new learning, and you want to keep telling any potential employer or any sort of a network that you move around in that what direction you are headed into in terms of your lifelong learning, because those conversations and those networking opportunities are going to get you different careers or progress in the same career that you might be in. So to sum it up for me would be stay adaptable and work on your communication skills.
Excellent, thank you. So Ashni, Griffith University is located in a regional area, right? I am sure you've been asked this many times, that what is the comparison of studying in a regional area vis-a-vis a metropolitan area. What I want to ask you though is that, are there any myths around studying in a regional campus that you would want the students to lose completely?
Sorry, I didn't get, are there any
myths about, like students have a perspective, right, that okay, this university is in a regional campus.
Tell the negative points yourself and then break them into positive.
Exactly. It makes me think of one thing, when now I've stopped thinking about myths a lot, because Gold Coast is our regional campus. So Griffith, let me correct, is not a regional university. One of the campuses is regional, so that's Gold Coast. So I remember many years ago, Gold Coast is known for it's a party place.
Absolutely, I know.
I don't call it as a myth, but yes, early days with Griffith, parents were a little scared in sending kids to Gold Coast because they thought they will party too much. So that's regional for you.
So now we know what she meant by students enjoying the freedom a little bit too much.
Yeah, you know that.
All at the Gold Coast.
Enjoying themselves. So jokes apart, but if you have to compare regional versus cities, especially Gold Coast, if I have to compare, it's a change of lifestyle. So you compare Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane to Gold Coast. If a student's looking at a different lifestyle, then they could look at Gold Coast.
Okay.
A little bit relaxed. It's not as busy as big cities, but it's not too regional as well. So Gold Coast is a very popular destination of Australia. So you will find a lot of people in Gold Coast. But they are all tourists. They don't live there.
Right.
So it's always buzzing with people 365 days throughout the year. So that's a different kind of regional as compared to other regional when we talk of. So that's one of the only myths that I've come across at Griffith University with Gold Coast being regional campus. But other than that, cost of living could be slightly cheaper.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's a big difference. Slightly. Across Australia, cost of living, the inflation's really gone up, and we know that the cost of living has increased tremendously. So I don't see a big difference in terms of cost of living, but like I said, it's lifestyle choice. If you really want to relax, I personally like Gold Coast very much because it has beach, you can walk, you can go running, And then it has beautiful public transport system. It has light rails. It's good to travel there. So yeah, so I don't think there are any negatives around it, but yeah.
Yeah, you've painted a very pretty picture.
It is. You have to go to Gold Coast to actually believe it.
Can I just add on to that? A lot of the perception drives from the terminology that is being used, and that perception is driven by where the person is located. So, for example, what we would call regional in India is not going to be the regional of Australia, right? And it will not be so, and goes for any country, right? Cities are pretty much the same all over the world. Any big city is pretty much the same. More people, costlier, more opportunity. So, there's good and bad of everything. So, I think the choice is quite personal for a student, what kind of lifestyle they want. And I think it needs to begin with what is the course I want to study and where is it available. I think that's how students should be approaching this, and not thinking too much about what does regional mean and what does a big city mean. Sure, there's other factors, how much money you can spend on it and all of it. But I think the beginning of this hunt needs to be what I want to study, where is it available, where is it taught better, and that's how you start approaching your decision making.
Can I also add, when you say myth, I want to actually talk about two of them. One is that, and these are the questions that get asked from us. One is, does regional means rural? And the answer is no.
No, it doesn't mean
The
rural India.
parameter on the basis of which a city has been defined as regional is the population.
Okay. All right.
So if the cities have got lower population but they need more skilled people, they're trying to attract more people to come and start living there, maybe if they want to study there, they can do it with some additional incentives for them. So that's one. So these are modern cities. They've got the right infrastructure. It's not that there are power cuts for 10 hours a day. It's not that ruler,
Okay.
So it's like a proper city, great infrastructure, great campuses, great courses, and depends on what course you want to do. Certain courses have been getting offered there because that's where the demand is. The sector.
Yeah.
For example, Gold Coast tourism.
Yeah, so we've
big on
got tourism. Tourism is taught at Gold Coast because it's a tourist city.
Yeah.
So it aligns with what the city is all about, and the degree is taught in Gold Coast only. We don't have tourism at. You could very well end up in Gold Coast working, but you have a choice of working somewhere else as well. Then of course they can work anywhere, wherever they get jobs. You're not stuck at a place. So one thing I'd circle back to what Mayank spoke about is program is important. The degree is important. That should be the driving factor of choosing a campus as to where, which city, which campus, which universities. So what do you want to study? So program selection is the key aspect of it. Compare the programs, compare the degrees, then look at whether it fits into your budget or not, and then look at where do you want to live. So I think those are the few things that a student should keep in mind instead of going for whether regional or city. It really doesn't matter a lot when it comes to Australia, because Australia by and large is very well connected with whether it's regional or city. So if I have to say between Brisbane and Gold Coast is 70 kilometers. You can travel between Brisbane to Gold Coast is 1 hour, 30 minutes is the travel time. So it's not that.
You marry these two concepts, the choice of course and location, right? Because the question is around location. Now, if you start with the concept of what course or program you'd want to study, if you wanted to study sea life, right? You are not going to a university that is in the middle of the mountain, right? So, which you can make these decisions based on why a course would be good at this location, right? There will be an entire industry around it, right? And a point was brought up that you could end up anywhere. Well, that is the objective of any university anyway. Every university is committed towards building global citizens. Amit at the start of the conversation mentioned you could study in Australia or come back to your home country or go to another third country. The same concept applies within whatever you call regional and city-based universities in Australia. You're looking for a lifestyle, so you want to pursue those kind of job opportunities in those areas that offer that kind of a lifestyle. So, and I think that's the end of it all.
Agree. And also, I think the myth about are there jobs or there no jobs in regional, that's a very important, some perception that there might be lesser jobs. Like I said, there are low people or lesser population. There are enough jobs. In fact, like I said, the government is incentivizing, the migration into regional because there are a lot more jobs than the people. So the opportunities are big there. It's all about what course, like my colleagues have been talking about, what course, location. It's not rural. It's like a regional city which has got a certain professions or certain type of industries there. So you could always look into those all options, parameters, and then make your decision. But it's great campuses in regional cities as well, and you can really sort of choose between the two. And depends on your personal preference whether you want to be in a bigger city or you prefer a smaller city.
Excellent perspectives. So this question is for all of you. Would it be correct to call Australia a scholarship-centric country?
Who do you want to answer first? Like, who should answer first? You go first. All right. I'll say yes for a reason. That Australia recognizes the work and the efforts of the students.
Okay.
So there are numerous scholarships offered by Australian government, universities. In fact, there are a lot of funding opportunities because of the strong bilateral relationship between Australia and India. Okay. So there are scholarship opportunities, and they've been brought in to recognize the efforts and the hard work that students have put in. So we do offer, like I said, there are university-specific ones. There are some government initiatives. There are certain particular country initiative, specific ones also, and student can also always explore them. And there are detailed information available on each university's website to find out that what are they eligible for, and then they can apply for it. So yes, they are.
Yeah, so these are all meritorious scholarships. So these are not something like called bursaries wherein everybody gets a prize. When you say scholarship centric, these are awarded to students who meet the basic criteria of that particular scholarship. And like Amit rightly mentioned, that every university will have that. We have scholarships, and you have to have certain GPA to get that. It's not that everybody gets it. So yeah, so we recognize a student's efforts in their previous education, last qualification, what they've studied, how they've worked hard, and that's a motivation for a student, right? It's a reward for them for their good performance, and why not?
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be valued.
Yeah. There has to be. So we value what students bring in to the university, and the kind of student who comes in with the scholarship, there are very good chances that they'll be better alumni. They'll be good students. They'll take your name forward. So you want to invest in that. That's more like an investment into quality students.
Absolutely.
I would just want to reword some of the a part of the question that you asked. Instead of calling Australia a scholarship-centric destination, I would want to reword it to say it's a country that recognizes talent and potential, right? Every university offers merit-based scholarships, and there's a wide variety of these scholarships on offer. These could start from $5,000 a year, all the way up to 100% scholarship, right? There are scholarships that you don't need to make a separate application for, so anything that is GPA based or performance in prior education leading up to getting into that university. And there are certain kinds of scholarships where you need to submit extra work to demonstrate what is the kind of work that you've done and why you deserve that scholarship. So if you, and there's a pool of students every intake from across the world, so you compete with the best students from across the world to win that award. So I think it's a very rewarding experience for the student, and I'm not even talking about the amount of money that they're going to save. I'm talking about finding out that they were amongst the top 0.1 or 2%, in that range of students who won that scholarship.
Right.
So like Ashini mentioned, these students will then work harder, right? These will be better ambassadors for the university, and you want to keep creating these better ambassadors, not for the sake of getting more students into the university, but 10-15 years after you've graduated, your value is still somehow attached to where you studied from, right? if that university needs to stay relevant for over a long period of time for you to be continue to be valued amongst your peers. So all in all, this is an environment where students who get in, get the opportunity to compete for those scholarships. Students who win those scholarships become better brand ambassadors for the university, for the country, as a whole. And then eventually this circle keeps going on, and more students, they become aspirational figures, right? Why do we talk about alumni? Because they're an aspiration to students who are considering a particular university. So I would just want to revert that into this from, Australia being a scholarship destination, and call it a country that identifies and appreciates talent and hard work.
And the last question to wrap up this wonderful session is that how is the Australian government preparing to welcome students in 2025? You can go first.
Sure. Thank you for that question. Well, Australia, India, if I start with that, Australia and India shares the strongest diplomatic relationships ever. At the moment, there's a special friendship between the two. Our prime ministers, our education ministers see each other quite regularly. They're visiting each other. Our education minister is going down to Australia very soon. There's a special agreement between the two countries where they're recognizing the qualifications, which actually creates more benefit for the students, and there's more value back home when they come down with the degree. So when you ask me that, 2025 is another year, I would say, where we continue to welcome the students. Australia has always been welcoming international students, and the same will be the approach for 2025 also. So we're really looking at now the students starting in. In fact, the batches, the semester 1, 2025, you would see that the promotions are going on. The universities are here. We're engaging with the students. So there is nothing as substantial changing over there. There's no changes. Australia also has been very strategic about their approach when it comes down to international students coming down there. And the word that that has been spoken is sustainable growth. So Australia is looking constantly for growth of international students, because Australia always values the international student. They bring in new perspectives to Australia, to the campuses. Like I said, the students learn from each other. Domestic students gain so much from the international student.
Right.
So we're looking for another big year of 2025, and Australian government really supports, and they're really looking at deepening their engagement with India also.
Yeah, I agree with Amit. It's at India-Australia relationship are at its peak when we talk about bilateral relationships. So that's one aspect of it. And student engagement, and Australian universities actually are promoting a lot within India to attract Indian applicants in 2025. And one of the things that we are giving a message across is start early. Start applying to the universities, because you've got February, March intake coming now, and then sooner you apply, the better the chances are for you to get accepted and get your visas in place. So early acceptance, early applications are invited by all the universities for next year 2025. So it's business as usual, a lot of engagement from universities and from country to country bilateral aspect, a lot of engagements happening. Like I said, I'm repeating myself, it's at its peak. Relationship is at its peak. So we've not seen better times than these when it comes to India-Australia partnerships, and that flows into education as well. So best times ahead, and start applying is what I would send a message to all the applicants. For your visas, I think December, you should be able to apply for visas in December for March intake.
Excellent. Mayank, anything from you?
I think the welcome to international students would be grander in 2025, mostly because a lot of changes that have been announced by the Aussie government, and so universities are now preparing for a more positive welcome. They understand what. It's not about reassuring. You now understand how many students are going to be coming in. Right. You are better prepared, right? You are better prepared with the level of service you're able to provide to them. The journey between making an application and starting your course, even that has got a lot of steps for leading up to the orientation week that Ashini touched upon. So advice, preparation, and service during that period, the last mile challenge, all of it is extremely important. I think all universities know that there is a huge demand for Australian education globally, right? Which is why the Australian government might have taken certain steps that they've taken right now. So knowing that there's a capacity that they will be accepting this year in 2025, I think they will be better prepared. The welcome for international students would be grander. So in my opinion, there is not a better year that has been so far to start studying in Australia.
That's the high note I was looking for to wrap up the session. It was such a great experience, such great insights, great conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
us.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
As promised in the beginning of the episode, I hope you found excellent insights on Australian higher education. If you like the content, please like and share this video with your friends. And to catch more such episodes, please subscribe the channel.